This is Vetted.
Now let's take a closer look at David Grusch, the UFO whistleblower who shocked the world.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No.
If you don't know who David Grusch is by now, let me fill you in.
Bombshell claims from a military whistleblower.
David Grusch.
David Grusch. David Grusch.
Former Pentagon official David Grusch
claims he's viewed evidence of a UFO crash retrieval program.
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
So you're vouching for this guy?
What incentive would so many people with that kind of qualification have to come forward and make something up?
Secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin.
Non-human origin.
So you would think things like actually having alien bodies would be much more significant evidence of there being aliens.
No evidence has been presented at all.
I don't want to be proven wrong about aliens.
What is there to these claims that have been made?
If you're following stuff about aliens and about UFOs and what U.S. lawmakers are saying about all of this, things are very confusing right now.
Are we alone? And if we were not, would you even tell us?
I would refer that question to the Department of Defense and let them answer that question for you. Go ahead.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
Alien spacecrafts.
Certainly interesting.
This is a complicated story with claims that would fundamentally change our reality. So let's vet the interview that started this whole thing. The News Nation interview presented by journalist Ross Coulthart. Before we get to the interview, first let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Coulthart and how this News Nation interview came to be. Ross Coulthart's About the Author excerpt from his latest book, In Plain Sight, which I highly recommend, states, Ross Coulthart is an award-winning investigative journalist and writer. Coulthart has won 5 prestigious Walkley Journalism Awards, including the most coveted top award for Australian journalism, the Gold Walkley. He's one of the most well-respected names in the UFO community, which makes his interview with David Grusch all the more captivating. And how did this interview come to be anyway? Here's Ross on his own podcast, Need to Know, explaining how the interview came to be.
Who is this guy exactly? Well, you put him on camera. How did you find him and get him to do that?
You might remember I told you once that in my book as well, I talked about a guy called Nat Kovitz.
Yep.
And Nat was one of the chief geeks for the US Navy. And he was dying, and he gave me leads. And I've never spoken about this before, but he gave me leads that led me to people working in what they purported was a secret program involving the retrieval and attempted reverse engineering of non-human technology. And I've been speaking to those people for some time, and it was they who told me about Dave Grusch, and it was they who vouched about Dave Grusch to me.
Aside from the News Nation interview, there was an article published in The Debrief by journalists Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal with the same basic claims made in the News Nation interview. Their names might be familiar because they wrote the 2017 New York Times article that brought the UFO topic into the public domain in a reputable way. There was also a Dutch newspaper interview, which is worth checking out, but the same basic claims are covered in the News Nation interview. And then there was a clip of a backup interview that was released on the Need to Know podcast. Apparently David Grusch and Ross Coulthart got together and did some sort of a backup interview in case something went wrong. So here's a clip to further explain.
On May 8th, what happened is there was a decision that, hey, maybe he'll get nervous and he won't want to do this, or something will come up, or God forbid, we show up at the News Nation interview on May 9th and there's federal marshals there to arrest him and take him away. I mean, we just weren't sure. So there was a sort of a feeling at that lunch we had that we ought to try to get him on tape as a safety copy, if nothing else, that we would have some tape made. So We kind of went into overdrive on that afternoon, and literally I called my son, who's a filmmaker, Jared Zabel, and I said, hey, grab your camera, come on over to the house, and let's do this interview. So we put Dave on tape for a couple of hours, as I recall it.
So you've spoken to people with direct knowledge
Yes.
of a secret legacy UFO program.
Correct.
You're saying that the United States government has retrieved alien technology.
Yes, the assessment was non-human, presumably extraterrestrial, but we do have retrieved non-human material and craft that we have in our possession.
Do we have alien bodies?
We do.
And as always, don't worry, we'll put links to all of this in the description. Now let's get to the interview that shocked the world.
Tonight, for the first time, a former senior military intelligence officer comes forward to say what we've only imagined is true. You are saying to the human race, for the first time, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
Claims that our government has proof of alien life. We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number. Some are landed, some are crashed.
Allegations of a secret government program that's hidden the truth and the technology from the world.
There's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the US populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral. And it's totally frightening.
From Roswell to the present day.
We're going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
There are non-prosaic cases, 100% unexplainable. This is like tangible technical craft they're seeing.
Is this decorated officer a liar? Why should we believe you? A fool? Is it possible that you're deluding yourself? Or a hero?
I'm a patriot, and I believe the truth to power in this.
Prepare to have your mind blown. We're talking about the biggest secret in human history. We are not alone. The UFO Whistleblower speaks.
David Grusch has basically made three main claims. That the United States has crashed UFOs, there's been a secret Cold War, and a massive cover-up for all of this. So let's break down each of these claims. Number one, that the United States has UFOs. So basically he's saying that the United States has had crash retrieval programs, secret black ops programs, Black Monday, funded outside of normal U.S. government channels, and that they've been going around the globe and collecting this material, craft, whether it be whole, intact. Some have crashed, some have landed, some have even been abandoned, he said. And also that inside of these craft, there have been dead aliens, dead pilots, as he calls them.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No.
Grush alleges the U.S. government has recovered non-human craft for decades. He's filed a whistleblower complaint saying he gave what he calls the classified proof to Congress and the intelligence community inspector general. News Nation has confirmed David Grush's credentials and resume. We've not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators. He says he can't show us the proof for national security reasons. He also tells us he's not seen photos of the alleged craft himself, but has talked extensively with other intelligence officials who have.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Claim number two. There's been a secret Cold War. Basically, the U.S. and other adversary nations have been competing to try to get these materials, right, and these bodies, and then try to reverse engineer this technology, which is really the key to all of this.
He says our geopolitical rivals have their own crash retrieval programs.
We're in a competition with their adversaries to understand this, and it's a multi-decade Cold War that has been under our nose for so long, and there is no good way to level the playing field and hold other nation states accountable if they're doing unethical or illicit activity as it relates to this subject. And I think the obtuse secrecy is actually putting us in a very dangerous position where a country might make a breakthrough. Let's say it's an adversary of ours, and it is so destabilizing.
The secrecy is the main reason Grush says he is coming forward. He's concerned Congress is being kept in the dark, and it's a matter of national security.
This is not a question I had on my bingo card last week. It is not my sweet spot. Although I am a defense appropriator, I am part of classified briefings. This is nothing that has come up.
I saw the report. It sounds fascinating, but if there's anything there, we gotta investigate. Just like we would investigate a foreign country that has a balloon over our sky.
And number 3, a cover-up. Now, this involves thousands of people and different governments across the globe and murders. Let's be real. He is saying that different governments, our own included, has murdered people to cover this up. He also says that the aliens have murdered people, so that they're not all friendly. That is quite disturbing and scary, so not sure what to make of all this.
If you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the U.S. government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
I've been told that there have been attempts to bring down craft, that we've acted offensively against non-human craft.
There have been instances, and there are certain techniques.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
What do we do about this? Do we believe these claims? They're kind of outlandish, right? But at the same time, there's really no way to prove it or disprove it, to be honest with you. You can verify Grush in his background, and that is easy to verify, but you can't really verify these claims one way or the other. So yes, at the end of the day, we have to look into this, and Congress is.
It is big news. Senator Rubio says Grush is not the only high-level government official to come forward with these kinds of claims.
We'll say there are people that have come forward to share information with our committee over the last couple of years. What I think we owe them is just a mature, understand, listening, and trying to put all these pieces together and just sort of intake the information without any prejudgment or jumping to any conclusions in one direction or another.
So the Pentagon has released a statement to News Nation about this report. They say to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently.
I've got to be blunt about this. Yeah. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. Mm-hmm. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
Now here's some clips of some skeptics and what their take is. Remember, I'm not saying one way or the other if David Grusch is telling the truth or lying. Time will tell, in my opinion. But we must present both sides of the argument, because it is possible what he's saying isn't the truth, whether he believes it to be true or not.
You see his eyes closed while he's saying the sense of service.
You're not being paid for this interview?
No, I'm not.
Why are you doing this?
It's a sense of service, you know.
And this closed eye talking is most common in Western countries when somebody's patting themselves on a back in like a pretentious manner while they're trying to make it look humble. And the example is when you ask your neighbor why they bought some solar panels for their house or an electric car, and they go, oh, well, it's good for the environment. You see the same exact behavior.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No.
What does that mean, quite a number? What, more than 10? Less than 5? 100 or more? Quite a number? That could be anything. Why would somebody who is so clear and articulate just give us quite a number? So no numbers there. Listen, I'm already finding him more than slightly annoying, and it's going to get worse. Let's see what else we got.
Listen to the change in his pitch and his tone. He goes to a clipped, quicker speech when he's talking about this doctor who is the head of this whole department.
Well, I know Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. I expressed some concerns to Dr. Kirkpatrick about a year ago, and I told him what I was starting to uncover, and he didn't follow up with me. And he has my phone number. He could have called me.
That's the way one of my ex-girlfriends would say it. She would have said, he's got my phone number, and been very quick and very aggressive. That sounds bitter. That sounds upset.
His delivery is really smooth, like it's rehearsed, like he's gone over this not 5 times, 10 times, but 20 times. He's done this a whole lot. That's what it sounds like to me. He's really confident. He says nuclear.
Our nuclear fizzle.
Not nuclear.
If you can imagine the nuclear, radiological, and biological risk.
He's supposed to be in this group here. It's a whole lot smarter than this group down here. And he shouldn't be saying nuclear.
Our nuclear fizzle.
Now, the question we have to ask ourselves is, what makes David Grusch credible? Let's let Ross, in his own words, describe to us what makes David Grusch's claims credible.
My impressions of Dave Grusch are not formed just by talking to Dave Grusch. Both Leslie and Ralph and I have done very methodical checking into his background. We've assessed his credibility, and more importantly, we've verified with many independent sources that he is who he says he is.
Journalist Leslie Kane broke Grusch's whistleblower story this morning in the debrief. Ms. Kane's career has been mainstream and credible, having written a series of reports on UFOs in the New York Times dating back to 2017.
He has the credentials, but there's no documents that he's handed over. There's no pictures. And as a journalist, you want to see documents, you want to see pictures. Does that raise a red flag?
Not at all, Brian. You mean documents that actually describe the craft?
Correct, yeah, like government documents, or to be able to see it for ourselves.
Of course, don't we all want that? And the problem with that is all of that information is classified. As we said in the story, everything that Grusch told Congress and told the Inspector General of both the IC, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and the Department of Defense Inspector General. All of that information is classified.
In 2017, Kane reported exclusively in the New York Times that the Pentagon had a secret UFO program. 3 years later, the Pentagon confirmed her story. Her latest report is even more explosive, but Kane says she has multiple sources who back up Grusch's story.
He's one of the guys who quite literally was involved in putting together the presidential daily briefing for the President of the United States. He was cleared so highly with his top secret SCI compartmented clearance that he was given access to over 2,000 special access programs. The extraordinary thing about Dave Grusch's revelations are that he is making them under the authorization of the Defense Office Pre-Publication Security Review. He has been approved by the US Department of Defense to do the interview he's done with me and with Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal. Unless there's been an elaborate disinformation program going back to maybe even 3 years, I think this guy's for real. He's one of the highest intelligence officers ever to come forward In fact, I think he is the highest intelligence officer ever to come forward on the issue of UAPs.
I believe it because of all the sources I have who have told me the same thing. So who am I to doubt these very, very high-level people who have been inside these programs for decades, have done their work, and are all telling me the same thing? I mean, I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy among all these people who don't know each other to make something like this up.
And one of the reasons why I think we should give him huge credibility is because I've been able to confirm, and so have Leslie and Ralph, that Dave's allegations made in a secret hearing to the Inspector General of the intelligence community have been verified to be both urgent and credible.
We'll keep updating you on the David Grusch story and the UFO disclosure movement he's starting. Word is he's about to testify at the end of this month, July. Let's wait and see.
Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, says they do intend to have hearings on UFOs, and we just learned the committee confirming that they are in the preliminary stages of getting those hearings together. And regardless of whether you believe David Grusch, this really is an emerging area.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Vetted Podcast. This is Vetted.